So here's the challenge. You've made some great change in your life, like you're eating better, or you're exercising more, or you're reading more books lately, whatever it is, but you're worried your streak's not going to last. Well, a new scientific paper has a mental trick that just might help. There are two different ways you can think about the benefits of your goal. The first is the extrinsic reward. If you do sit-ups every day, you'll get a six-pack. If you eat more salads, you'll lose more weight. These are the metaphorical carrots that we dangle for ourselves to motivate us to stick with our goals. But there's another way to think about our goals, which is the intrinsic reward of the goal. Exercising feels good. Maybe you get a social reward from doing exercise with your friends. Maybe you like the way salad tastes. Well, these two ways of thinking about a goal have very different effects. A new study from researchers at Cornell University, the London School of Economics, and the Chicago School of Business, not a bad hat trick of schools, looks at this dichotomy between extrinsic and intrinsic rewards and finds some really interesting patterns. The first thing they did was to ask 2,000 Americans about what motivated them to make their New Year's resolutions, and then check to see how well those people kept their resolutions. And this data set kind of tells the whole story. People with high intrinsic motivation were 60% more likely to stick with it than people with low intrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation had a huge impact. People with higher extrinsic motivation were no different from those with low extrinsic motivation. So in other words, people who said they enjoy doing exercise were much more likely to stick with it than people who said they didn't like the exercise, but people who said they were so psyched to have a six-pack were no more likely to stick with it than people who didn't care about the six-pack at all. So intrinsic mattered, extrinsic did not. Next, the researchers checked to see if this same pattern holds in other cultures. They surveyed 500 people in China about their Chinese New Year's resolutions. They found exactly the same pattern. And then in a third study, they had 500 people count their steps. They asked them what motivated them to keep making their step goal every day. And then they looked at the patterns and they found the same thing. When people are motivated by the enjoyment of walking, they tend to stick to their step goals. And if they're motivated by changing their health, by getting those steps done, they don't do as well. So next time you're on the treadmill or looking at a menu in a restaurant or trying to force yourself to make a better decision in whatever part of your life it is, focus on the intrinsic value of that choice in the moment. And maybe you'll have an easier time making your streak last. Anyway, that's my favorite science story this week. It's just one of 5 stories in my weekly newsletter. The only way to get the other 4 is to sign up. So go sign up. Just go to followthebatsignal.com and I'll send you all 5 stories every week for free.